I promise you, I was thinking about coming up with a clever pun or joke that had something to do with the concept of being locked up. See, I'm a man of impeccable focus and will and professionalism. There's no way I would just insert some weird jokey clip into right into the middle of
Get locked up, they won't let me out. They won't let me out. Locked up.
Locked, not locked up, but locked, in which someone is locked up inside of a car. This is a crime thriller that's directed by David Yarovesky, I think that's his name. This movie stars Bill Skarsgard and Anthony Hopkins and is the story about a guy that gets locked inside of a car. Bill Skarsgard plays this petty thief and criminal who's down on his luck and he's trying to find a way to get some money. His car is being worked on at the shop and he doesn't have the money to pay for it, so he tries to break into a car to see if he can turn his fortunes around. And unfortunately, the person whose car he broke into is Anthony Hopkins' character, and he's not very happy about it. In fact, he's so deranged about it that he locks this dude in the car and then spends pretty much the entire runtime tormenting him and abusing him verbally and arguing with him and basically making his life a living hell, you know, inside a car. I will say this, I'm a sucker for an interesting premise in which a character or characters have to struggle in one set location and have to figure their way out of it, kind of like a puzzle box. If I had to describe the concept of this movie, I would say it's Panic Room meets Phone Booth. And I don't know if you've seen either of those movies. You could also argue that this is a great way to keep the budget down in some cases, but either way, I just feel like lower budget or less opportunity or less sets or less location, it just gives you the chance for more creativity. And that's what this movie is, man. It's really just creative ways in which you can make someone's life a living hell inside of a car. There's tons of fun scenarios and increasingly exciting scenarios as the movie plays out, especially as Anthony Hopkins gets more bold and daring with what he's doing. Like, the car is completely bulletproof, breakout proof, if that even is a thing, and obviously Anthony Hopkins controls the car, so he can do pretty much whatever he wants. He can control the AC and the heat to make your life uncomfortable. Like, imagining like being stuck in a car where somebody can turn on the music and then turn it as loud as humanly possible to really piss you off. I think about all the songs that I have hated the most in my life, and I think, would I want to subject myself to that? Probably not. I would probably have bashed my face into the windshield. Anthony Hopkins can also take control of the car and like drive it anywhere he wants to go. And so it's one of those movies where they take the concept, and it's a concept you've seen before, but it's a concept that's so well executed here because there's a lot of really fun, exciting, thrilling scenarios in which this character is trying to survive, trying to figure out his way out of the situation where he basically stole the wrong guy's car. You guys have seen Taken and you know the concept of, hey, you just took the wrong guy's daughter. It's the same thing here. There's nothing special about why he was chosen. He just literally stole the wrong dude's car. Speaking of the wrong dude, want to give a shout out to Anthony Hopkins. Anthony Hopkins was really, really good in this movie. He is absolutely having the time of his life playing this character. Think of Phone Booth, think of Kiefer Sutherland. It's hard for me not to think of him as Jack Bauer. Think of Kiefer Sutherland and that menacing voice just talking in your ear the entire time. Okay, picture that, and picture something more excitable, like gawky and neurotic, and that's what Anthony Hopkins is doing. Also, shout out to Bill Skarsgård. I know that The Crow was not necessarily the best look for him last year, but Bill Skarsgård is actually a pretty good actor, man. Come on. If there is something emotional to latch onto in this movie, it's not necessarily Bill Skarsgård's character in general. Like I said, he's a very flawed human being. But it's more so about this relationship with his daughter that he's trying to salvage and how he's trying to get back on his feet. And I do think the movie does a pretty good job at illustrating why we should care about why that relationship means so much. There's also some pretty dynamic camera work that they introduce here that I want to shout out for a second. I mean, there's some long takes and some pans that they do from inside the car that I'm not really sure how they pulled off.
Get locked up, they won't let me out. They won't let me out.
I swear to you, that's the last time. Honest to God, hand over heart, or hand. Which hand is it the right hand over the heart? What I will say as far as criticism for this movie is that I do feel like the movie kind of wades into some heavy waters that it wasn't prepared for. What I mean by that is there's some really heavy-handed messaging here, a lot of conversations about classism, rich versus poor, you know, that whole thing. It feels about as subtle as smashing an ant with a sledgehammer, and it's not really done in a way that feels like it's cohesive enough for the rest of the movie. It feels kind of tacked on the way that they do it, and it does just feel very heavy-handed. It feels like one of those things where they're forcing it into your face and forcing you to think about it, but it's like it doesn't tie into the narrative in any meaningful way for the rest of the movie. Also, the longer the movie goes on, the more absurd it gets. There are some things where it really strains your suspension of disbelief. There's some things that you just have to kind of sit back in the theater and go, oh, okay, that's what? what, really? In the end, Locked had me locked in. I was really invested and interested in this movie. We have a fun Anthony Hopkins performance like this where he gets to cut loose and act batshit insane. We should always appreciate those type of performances, especially as Anthony Hopkins gets older and we don't know how much longer he's gonna keep acting. Locked was a really fun premise and a really interesting thriller. I'm gonna leave this one in the Silver Age for Man of Steel. Those are my thoughts on Locked. Tell me, have you seen it? What did you think about it? Give me your thoughts on it in the comment section below. Please like and subscribe to the Superfan Show, and if you like what you see, tell me how you feel and stay tuned to hear more from the Man of Steel. Peace.